Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today we have a Legions of Death preview match featuring a proxied version of one of our two upcoming Necrons faction warlords, Anrakyr the Traveler, played by Guy Lev. For today's video he's going to be playing against Travis McDaniel, whom is going to be piloting Torquemada Coteaz. Both of our players are currently deciding whether or not they want to keep their opening hands. Bear in mind that our Necron starts the game with initiative. Planet number 1 is going to be Planum, which allows you the opportunity to move any of your non-warlord units to the planet of your choice. And for our first deploy phase, it looks like Guy is going to be setting his enslavement dial to the Astra Militarum faction. So, as a deploy action, Anrakyr can deploy the topmost unit card in a target discard pile, limit once per phase, but you can only deploy or otherwise put into play units that match your enslaved faction. Looks like Travis has decided to ditch his opening hands. Coteaz begins the game with no attack value. He sacrifices units to get attack value, but he has 8 hit points and a starting hand size of 8. He starts with his signature attachment, No Mercy, a SIG unit, and a fair few command icons in addition to one of our new Orc attachments, and a copy of the rather powerful troop transport to put guardsman tokens into play, only to be subsequently sacrificed to Coteaz to boost him up to an attack value of 3. But, much more interestingly, our Necron player tosses out a copy of one of his signature arm units, Eternals, to planet number 1. For the cost of 2, it's a 1 command icon, 1/1, but he's got 5 of these in his deck, and for each one in his discard pile, it gets +1 attack and +1 hit points, and considering that Anrakyr has a predilection and predisposition for filling his discard pile with cards, you can imagine that these Eternals are going to be bolstered up relatively quickly. We've also got a copy of the Deathmark Assassins. Normally, Planum means you want to put a pretty damn powerful unit at it, and at the beginning of the combat phase, this 3-cost 2/3 allows you to discard a card from the top of your deck. It might be a Pyrian Eternals, in which case the existing copy thereof in play would become a 2/2, but the Deathmark Assassins get +X attack until the end of the phase, where X is the cost of that card. So if you were to discard a 6-cost Doomsday Arc, they'd be able to attack for 8, and that would be very threatening for Coteaz indeed. Necrons are readily able to include any kind of neutral unit in their deck, so we've got a Rogue Trader at planet number 5 for Guy. Coteaz picks up a copy of the Glavodan Eagle, his signature attachment, so he's now a 1 base attack value warlord. As a combat action, you can detach it into a 1/1. As an action, you can return it to hand, so you could combat action, detach it, attack with it, then deploy phase action, bounce it back to hand for a bit of a deploy stall. We've got our troop transport in play, which could generate 2 1/2 soldier trait guardsman tokens at any green planet in play. Planets 1, 2, and 4 are all green. Looks like we could see a victory condition as early as planet number 4, and definitely worth noting is that planet number 5 has a green icon as well, and it happens to be a triple icon planet. Sanction Psyker, 2-cost, 2 command icon unit touches down at 5. A copy of Promotion on the Rogue Trader means that our Necron player is potentially going to be winning initiative at that planet. Coteaz drops a copy of his signature henchman at planet number 2. When that unit leaves play, you ready your warlord, so maybe you attack with Coteaz for 1 or 4 if you sacrifice another unit, then you attack with the henchman, then you sack the henchman, ready Coteaz, and attack again. At planet number 3, we've got a copy of the 1/1 ranged keyword Rattling Deadeye, and it looks like the Pyrian Eternals, that lowly 1/1 at planet number 1, has picked up a copy of Gauss Flare. So, as a combat action, you can exhaust the attached unit to give a target enemy army unit at its planet -2 HP until the end of the phase, and note that that's a combat action. It need not be involved in combat, so if battle at planet number 1 goes in Guy's favor, we might see this relocated to, say, planet 5, where it could immediately kill this Iron Guard recruits. -2 HP equals 0 HP equals a dead unit. Same thing goes with Rattling Deadeye, and the same thing does not go with the 3 HP Coteaz's henchman. And the Gauss Flare could make very short work of the Glavodan Eagles, so we'll have to be careful indeed in regard to what we see just happen. But both of our players are deciding where exactly they want to send their respective warlords. Note that Coteaz has got a copy of No Mercy in hand, so he might be able to just callously disregard his opponent's shield card, and in fact cancel a shield card. And then he's also got a copy of one of our newest Orc faction attachments, Huge Chain Choppa, in hand, which for the cost of 1 attached unit gets a massive +4 attack value, but it no longer readies. Oh, this looks like it might hurt for Anrakyr at planet number 3. Both warlords arrive. Coteaz is not going to have initiative, but he will be able to shoot with the Rattling Deadeye for 1, and Anrakyr, unfortunately, is not going to be able to trump the command of that Rattling Deadeye and win command at that planet. So Anrakyr is only going to end up winning command at a single planet, thanks to the Iron Guard recruits and Sanctioned Psyker being a total of 4 command icons, and the impeccable play of Travis McDaniel is maybe cock-blocking Guy Lev from really getting a solid performance out of Anrakyr here, but it's going to be a total of 3 cards, 2 resources for Travis, and a total of 1 card, 1 resource for Anrakyr. At planet number 1, and this is really unfortunate, looks like we discard a copy of the Pyrian War Scythe, which is the signature attachment for Anrakyr. Normally it boosts your warlord up to a total attack value of 3, and when he attacks, you discard the top 2 cards of your deck, and that definitely fuels the Pyrian Eternals. You might get a copy of Decaying Warrior Squad, so that about sucks. The Deathmark Assassins are only going to be attacking for 3. If they could have attacked for significantly more, they might be able to threaten Coteaz here. But a 3 attack value unit definitely isn't anything too terribly frightening. We might see the Pyrian Eternals shifted over to planet number 3 just to kill off that Rattling Deadeye prior to its opportunity to beat up Coteaz. And I suppose if the Rattling Deadeye is killed, Anrakyr can deal 2 points of damage to Coteaz's 1, so that might be pretty interesting there. In regard to events and shields, Travis has got 3 1-value shield cards. He's got a copy of Preemptive Barrage to grant both of his units here ranged. And then I suppose for Glaive Guy, he doesn't really have anything else relevant to combat. We do have a copy of Sawtech Complex, a support, in the hand of Guy, which is limited. It costs 1, and after you deploy a unit from a non-Necron faction, if you control no other units from that faction, you can gain a resource or draw a card. So, thus far, we haven't seen any dead Astra Militarum units, so there's nothing for Anrakyr to resurrect the next phase, but just like I predicted, Gauss Flare, delivered by this relocated Pyrian Eternals, results in a dead Rattling Deadeye. The Pyrian Eternals is going to be exhausted. The Gauss Flare technically should not be exhausted, but it matters little. And now it's going to be Coteaz's, it's Anrakyr's opportunity. He swings for 2, and now Coteaz is going to be a lowly 1/8. Granted, he does have the Glavodan Eagle, which he could detach, and it could potentially swing and kill the Pyrian Eternals, and I suppose the same thing could be said for Coteaz himself, but Anrakyr is presumably going to be able to quickly out-DPS Coteaz, although I suppose we could see a ton of shield cards thrown away by Travis in order for him to end up winning this planet. The battle ability on the line at present is Karnath. Our unit count is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 for Coteaz, and 1, 2, 3, 4 for Anrakyr. So if Coteaz were to retreat, he would not actually allow his opponent the opportunity to trigger Taurus, and Troop Transport could be used in order to put a Guardsman token into play, and it could potentially allow Coteaz to swing for 4, if it just so happens to be the case that we have our Necron player hang around here. So we see the Glavoden Eagle detached. Interestingly, the Eagle takes a swing at Anrakyr, and Anrakyr adds up another point of damage. Bear in mind that he's a 2/7 Warlord, and I guess we're going to come to the end of the... Okay, no, that's actually Coteaz being augmented by our... Okay, I'm sorry, the Glavoden Eagle is going to be returned to hand, and that's a very interesting choice, but I suppose Travis just really must have wanted that shield card. Normally what you can do is, as a deploy stall, as an action, you return it to your hand, and then as another action, you just play it out for one resource. But Travis must want to stay at this planet. I believe we're going to be coming... Okay, we're not quite to the end of the combat round. Do consider that our players are on Skype, so they do have the luxury of kind of talking everything out. Glaive Guy does not have any shield cards in hand whatsoever, and Travis has just got a tremendous number of shields. So what we could see happen here is the Pyrian Eternals are going to be attacking for 1, Anrakyr is going to be attacking for 2, so that's a total of 3. Okay, there we go. That makes the math really easy for me. Thank you, Travis. So at the end of the combat round, Coteaz ends up deciding to retreat, so I believe it was ever so slightly suboptimal to have the Glavoden Eagle bounce back to your hand, because you could have retreated with it at the end of the combat round prior to an action window in which the Pyrian Eternals would have been able to use Gauss Flayer to kill the Glavoden Eagle. But looks like we ended up seeing Karrnath triggered. That's going to be Ossus 4 result in -1 resource for Travis, +1 resource for Glaive Guy. Both of our players end up drawing 2 cards and earning 4 resources. Guy sets his enslavement dial again to Astra Militarum. We see a second copy of Troop Transport. That looks really bad for Anrakyr. Planet number 5 is going to be Aatrox Prime, which allows you to bombard the enemy HQ or target planet. Sawtech Complex enters play, and with Astra Militarum chosen, that could allow Anrakyr limit once per phase to put a unit like this Rattling Deadeye into play at whatever planet he'd like. We see the signature attachment, the Glavoden Eagle, placed again on Coteaz. He's got a copy of his henchman sitting at planet number 1. Anrakyr's movement is going to be restricted by that copy of the Deathmark Assassins, and unfortunately for Anrakyr, he drew 2 additional copies of the Pyrian Eternals, and considering he's got 0 copies thereof in his discard pile, there's still 2 cost, 1 command icon, 1 ones. The instant that one of them dies, all of the other ones grow stronger, but until that happens, they're not exactly doing him a lot of good. Guy's got 5 resources, 4 cards. He's going to be using his Sawtech Complex here, and let's see if he's going to be drawing a card or otherwise earning 1 resource. He does decide to draw a card. He gets a copy of the Decaying Warrior Squad, and what's very interesting about this is it's a 2-cost, 2/2 with no command icons. As a combat action, you can deploy it from your discard pile at any planet you'd like. So if you're in the final battle, if you've got 30 resources, you can literally have it fight and die 15 times. So it's pretty ridiculous indeed. Then back on Travis's side of the table, he drew into a copy of Cadian Mortar Squad, which is going to be incredible with a copy of Huge Chain Choppa, because what you can do is you can set up your Cadian Mortar Squad, which attacks for 1 at ranged, but with a copy of Huge Chain Choppa, it attacks for 5. It doesn't ready between combat rounds, but whenever a friendly unit you control leaves play, a friendly army unit that is, you ready this unit, and that potentially happens during ranged, and who can sacrifice units on demand? It is Coteaz. So the instant that Huge Chain Choppa hits the tabletop, Anrakyr is going to have to be very careful indeed. I'm going to go ahead and remind our players, I will just say, remember that Anrakyr is a 1/6 win bloodied, is our agreed upon thing there, with a little bit of a smiley face. Planet number 3, we've got a copy of Cadian Mortar Squad with 2 command icons opposite that Rattling Deadeye with just 1 command icon. Guy still has 5 resources to put into place some of these units. He's going to toss out a rogue trader to our new planet number 5 for another little bit of an economy bonus. I wouldn't be shocked. I suppose like Anrakyr is going to want to maybe go to planet 4 just to pick up that resource and card, but let's think about this for a moment. So Guy has only got a blue and a green icon in his victory display. If he wins at planet number 1 and planet number 3, that's going to be the game for him. Anrakyr is going to have to try and clear out this Cadian mortar squad as quickly as possible. Unfortunately for his sake, he's not going to have a unit with a Gauss flare at that planet to potentially, as a combat action prior to the range skirmish, decrease its HP value to 0, which would result in it immediately dying. We've got another copy of Rattling Deadeye played out at planet number 5, and it looks like Coteaz is managing to successfully establish a bit of an economic, stranglehold against Anrakyr here. So, part of the reason why I wanted to do another round of Necron proxy matches for Anrakyr and an upcoming game with Nahumek is at this point we've seen a sufficient number of Legions of Death spoilers that there are only 5 or at most maybe 6 Necron cards as of yet unrevealed for Legions of Death. So Anrakyr presumably has almost all of his tools at his disposal out the gate. He seems like he's the stronger Necron relative to Nahumek, but we'll just have to see how he performs. Coteaz is certainly coming into his own as of late, and if an Astra Militarum player can establish a bit of a powerful economy, then it can be very difficult indeed for any opponent to start to establish themselves, let alone someone like Anrakyr that might be working with an ever so slightly suboptimal card pool, and most definitely Guy, who's built a couple Anrakyr decks in his day. I don't imagine he's necessarily unlocked the secret to Anrakyr deck building as of yet. We've got another copy of the Eternals at planets 5 and planet number 1. Planet number 1 is a block for command, and unit counts looks like it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 for Coteaz and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for Anrakyr. So Coteaz is definitely going to be incentivized to show up to planet number 1, especially considering it's a green planet. He can potentially activate a troop transport. But if Coteaz ends up killing a copy of Pyrian Eternals, I believe he'll still be able to activate Taurus. Looks like Coteaz does indeed show up at planet number 1, and Anrakyr, I guess he's going to planet number 2, and it looks like he doesn't have any choice but to allow his opponent the opportunity to trigger Taurus here, because unless I did my math incorrectly, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Coteaz, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's going to be 7 for Guy Lev, guys. So this is about to really suck for Guy when Coteaz is going to have the option of triggering Taurus. I can only imagine he'll go for cards, and then things are looking catastrophic for Anrakyr. So Guy gets a total of 2 cards and 3 resources, whereas Travis gets also 2 cards and 3 resources. One of the freshest Necron spoilers, courtesy of those boys at the Tyrant cast. We've got Mechanical Enhancement now in Anrakyr's hand as a combat action for the cost of 2. All Necron units you control at a planet, which includes your Warlord, they get plus 2 HP until the end of the phase. And before I cover the Flayed Ones pack, we've got a battle breaking out at planet number 1, so Coteaz's henchman takes a swing, the Pyrian Eternals die, and now this Pyrian Eternals and the other copy of Pyrian Eternals are now going to be 2/2 units. So we've also got a copy of the Flayed Ones pack. It's a 2-cost 3/2 with a command icon, so it more than passes that ever-popular vanilla test, and as a forced reaction, after it's declared as an attacker, you discard the top 3 cards of your deck. So let's see here. We move a Warlock Destructor to the discard pile of Glaive Guy. And that was thanks to this Deathmark Assassins. I was trying to figure out what exactly was going on, but yes, at the beginning of the combat phase, it affords you the opportunity to discard a card. A 2-cost card means that it has attack value of 4 until the end of this phase. So, it looks like there's nothing that Guy is going to be able to do to stop Travis from activating Taurus. He does have a copy of Ammo Depot in hand, as well as an Evil Sun's Warbiker, so is he going to go for resources, trying to empty his hand and get out that Ammo Depot, or is he instead going to go for cards and just try to draw into all the more events? Looks like Travis goes for resources. I suppose that's what I would do myself. He does have a copy of Preemptive Barrage. He's got those troop transports, he's got Ammo Depot, and of course, he's also got a copy of Huge Chain Choppa, which he could actually put both copies, even though it would be ridiculous, on the Cadian Mortar Squad, and then it would be able to attack for 9 at ranged, which would be insane. Karnath triggers Ossus 4. Anrakyr is going to be unopposed at that planet. That's going to be minus another resource for Travis, plus 1 resource for Guy. That'll bring us to our HQ phase, which means 2 cards and 4 resources for each player. We're going to have a new 5th planet, which is Farron, the Route, a non-Warlord unit planet, which could definitely be potentially a desirable destination for Anrakyr. Guy picks Eldar on his enslavement dial, so he can put that Warlock Destructor into play. What's great about that is you can put the extraordinarily cost-efficient Warlock Destructor at planet number 1, even if it survives combat. That forced reaction, instead of, committing it to a planet exhausted and paying a resource to keep it alive, you just pay 2 resources and then you redeploy it from your discard pile, totally hale and healthy and ready to go. We've got a copy of another instance of Henchman for Coteaz. He's got 1 Henchman, restricting his movement in his HQ, bit of discard fodder to let Coteaz attack for 4, and it serves to ready him. And then for Guy, he drew into another copy of Warlock Destructor, which unfortunately is not going to benefit from mechanical enhancement here. And he also happens to possess a copy of Harbinger of Eternity. This is the very first Necron elite that we ever saw. For the cost of 5, it's 3 command icons, 3/5. You can play each Necron event from your discard pile as though it were in your hand. So as you're discarding cards via Anrakyr's signature attachment, via his signature support, via the event recycle, and all sorts of other effects like those flayed ones, your discard pile essentially serves as an extension of your hand insofar as events are concerned. Very interestingly, it looks like Anrakyr wants to win the hell out of planet number 1 because he's now got 2 Warlock Destructors at that location. It's going to be another red and blue icon for him, and if he manages to win at planet number 1, if he subsequently wins at planet number 3, where that Cadian Mortar Squad is not, that is going to be the game for Anrakyr. So, we've now got a copy of Catachan Outpost in play for Travis. We've got a copy of Ammo Depot in play for Travis, so he can boost up his unit's attacks. He can draw an additional card. We could see Karnath result in the routing of a target unit, and this is essentially like having so many units here at Karnath is basically going to allow Anrakyr the luxury of being able to send himself to whatever planet he would like. It could be planet number 2, so he could continue to starve his opponent of resources, although Travis is currently sitting at 6 resources, so it's not as though it's necessarily the most effective thing in the world. So we could see that, although the Cadian Mortar Squad would have an opportunity to take a shot at Anrakyr, and I can only imagine we're presumably going to be seeing a copy of the Huge Chain Choppa being dumped onto this Cadian Mortar Squad, just to make sure that it would be an absolute nightmare for Anrakyr to be commit to that planet. Something we could see is Anrakyr could show up at planet number 3, where he's not winning command. He could pull in a card and a resource. He could kill the Iron Guard recruits and, potentially kill the Iron Guard recruits, and I suppose if the recruits survive, they might be able to kill off the rogue trader, or we could even see a copy of Huge Chain Choppa put on the Sanctioned Psyker just to be a huge threat to Anrakyr. So myriad different options, and Coteaz is just extraordinarily assassination-focused, what with having a copy of No Mercy in hand, and the Cadian Mortar Squad is going to be able to attack for 5, Coteaz himself is going to be able to attack for 4, and we've also got this copy of Catachan Outpost outpost, which can augment the attack value of a Warlord up by 2. So, things are looking really dangerous for Anrakyr, and even a single attack going out to Anrakyr could result in the bloodying of that Warlord, and then once he's a 1/6, given the preference, predisposition of Coteaz to really leverage a lot of ranged skirmish units and card effects, that could definitely spell disaster for Guy, should he end up losing at even the last possible moment by Warlord death. But looks like slowly but surely we're going to be moving our way toward the command phase. Ammo Depot drew another copy of the signature army unit for Coteaz. We're at 34 cards remaining in deck for Glaive Guy. He's got 3 resources so he can put out Mechanical Enhancement. Travis has just got 1 resource, but he's doing quite a bit better than his opponent is economically, and he's got 32 cards remaining in hand. So let's see here. It seems like it would be rather pointless for Anrakyr to go to planet number 1. Coteaz is essentially assigning himself a death sentence if he goes to planet number 1. Anrakyr could go to planet number 2, but then he'll take an attack of 5 directly to his face. No mercy would result in his being bloodied. Looks like Anrakyr is going to go for that healing effect, potentially clear out that Iron Guard recruits. Coteaz instead shows up at planet number 2, which is going to allow him to kill off this Rattling Deadeye. So, planets number 1 and 3 are going to be economy wins for Guy. He gets another copy of Pyrian Eternals as well as a promotion. You really want those in your discard pile more so than your hand. And looks like Travis only accrues 2 resources. But he's got a copy of Preemptive Barrage, not that he necessarily needs it. Karnath is going to allow for the rout of a unit or for Aatrox Prime to fire at an adjacent planet, or for a 1-resource shift. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a rout of this Cadian Mortar Squad, although, come to think of it, that might actually be a bad idea, because what if Coteaz goes to, say, planet number 3, and then that's Anrakyr's victory condition, and you sacrifice a unit, and then you ready the Cadian Mortar Squad, and then it can no mercy attack during ranged and bloody or even assassinate Anrakyr. That would just kind of spell disaster. So I suppose another thing to bear in mind for Anrakyr showing up at planet number 3 here is it's his victory condition planet, but we've got 2 copies of Troop Transport and a Catachan Outpost, and I frankly don't see a whole hell of a lot of reason not to blow up both of those 2 Troop Transports, and that would be 4 Guardsman tokens, and that would make short work of Anrakyr, and it would be Iridial triggering to heal all the damage off of Coteaz. Looks like the Deathmark Assassins result at the beginning of the combat phase. They result in the discard of a Gauss Flare. I believe that we saw Sawtech Complex result in either an additional card or resource for Guy when he deployed a unit from the Eldar faction, either from discard pile or from hand, unless he happened to forget about that effect, which he hopefully did not. Karnath is going to be another trigger of Ossus 4. It seems like that's all our Necron knows how to do. It's going to be -1 resource again for Travis, but he still has more than enough to fund Preemptive Barrage, not that he needs it. And it's going to be +1 resource for Guy, who's now got enough resources in hand to deploy that Harbinger of Eternity during the next phase, and then some. So, the Rattling Deadeye at planet number 2 ends up being destroyed, and now I believe that Rattling Deadeye is going to be in the wrong discard pile. So why don't I say a wrong discard pile for Rattling, ? And then Coteaz is going to win the battle at this planet, and that's going to result in that same resource shift occurring. So it's going to be -1 for Guy, +1 for Travis, and the Rattling Deadeye looks like we pull that out of the discard pile. That's going to be Travis, again, taking control of it, and then discarding it himself, just because Anrakyr has the ability to deploy the topmost unit card in target discard pile, so if you accidentally goof and you don't have the order of discarded cards correct, then that's no good for anybody, and this is where things get interesting. Anrakyr is going to take a swing of 2 at the Iron Guard recruits, are we going to see a shield card discarded or not? We've got those troop transports. We've also got the Catachan outpost. So there's going to be a lot of different options, but it's going to come at the cost of, all right, so huge Chain Choppa is going to be discarded. Iron Guard recruit survives, and now it's time for Anrakyr to get the shit beaten out of him. So mechanical or no, I've got the feeling that he's about to get his robotic ass kicked. So, the Iron Guard recruits is going to have an opportunity to kill off that rogue trader, or more importantly, it looks like it's going to be focused on destroying Anrakyr. So the Iron Guard recruits are going to deal a point of damage to Anrakyr, unless he discards a copy of Promotion as a shield. Anrakyr only has 4 hit points remaining, and now Troop Transport plus Catachan Outpost is going to be 4 points of damage. Add in another Troop Transport, and then that means that you've got more damage output than Guy has shields remaining, and that could well mean a bloodied Warlord, and if that's the case, then that, courtesy of Preemptive Barrage and any number of other effects, could very much rather easily result in an assassinated dead Anrakyr. Rogue Trader is going to take a swing for an almighty 0, only to be followed up by, I can only imagine it's going to be the Sanctioned Psyker, also swinging for 0, or swinging for 2, courtesy of the Catachan outpost, because I would imagine you'd be pretty loath to pop the troop transports unless you absolutely have to. And whether mechanical enhancement is played, which would be a mistake, or whether it's used for shields, all you can really do is prevent or accommodate 2 points of damage, and I guess 2 HP until the end of the phase isn't nearly as good for one unit as just blocking it outright, but looks like that troop transport is going to generate 2 guardsman tokens. Token number 1 is going to swing for 1 at Anrakyr the Traveler. Interestingly enough, we did not see the Catachan outpost used. I suppose we might see it used now, so we may see No Mercy result in a bloodied Anrakyr, and then that would allow Coteaz to preserve his second troop transport just in case something nasty like Extermination ends up hitting him. So let's see here. Travis has got just that No Mercy, he's got Preemptive Barrage, neither of those, well, I guess No Mercy is going to be extraordinarily relevant right now, but none of the other card effects are. Anrakyr doesn't have any tricks in hand whatsoever, and just in regard to all the Necron faction cards we've seen, there's nothing akin to Indomitable, there's no, Tzeentch's Firestorm equivalent or anything like that. All the Necron tricks are pretty well telegraphed or orchestrated well in advance. Like a Gauss Flare, you know that it's an attachment. If it's the Hyperphase Sword, which you can discard cards to switch the attachment from one unit to another, its conventional effect is to provide +1 attack value and Armor Bane, and because it's an attachment, you know very well ahead of time that you're in for a bit of trouble, and this is going to be it. This is maybe going to be the bloodying of Anrakyr, so that is going to be an attack value of 3. Yep, that is No Mercy, so that is going to be a bloodied Anrakyr. I think we're proxying Commander Starblaze for Anrakyr, so that is going to be 4 + 3. He is now bloodied, so I will just say, remember, he's a 1/6 frowny face. So, ignore this 2/5 Commander Starblaze, and for some reason I had to reinstall Octagon before this game, so I apologize for the lack of card art there on the bloodied side, but those Guardsman tokens ended up winning it this planet for Coteaz, so it's only going to be a matter of time before we come to the end of the combat round here. That Sanctioned Psyker is going to be able to attack for 0. Yep, that's the end of the combat round. The Rogue Trader retreats. It manages to live to win a resource another day, and that means Iridial is going to trigger, and that's going to be 2 points of damage off of Coteaz here. So what really sucks about this point in the game as we go through another HQ phase is, I guess let's cover the basics. 2 cards, 4 resources for each player. Travis picks up initiative. He drops another copy of Ammo Depot in play. He's now got 2 of those that he can trigger for deploy stalls and for all manner of other effects. He's also got a copy of Sakalem Shrine Guard, and these first 2 very relevant planets are both green. Do note that. Glaive Guy, he's got another copy of the limited Sautek complex. Let me ask about enslavement dial, sir. Never mind. So he chose, the Astra Militarum was his choice. So it looks like his choice of unit to put into play is going to be the Rattling Deadeye. My bad for missing that effect. And, in his own discard pile, Guy does not have any units. He's got both of those Warlock Destructors, which are going to cost him a total of 2 resources during our deploy phase here. So here's the situation. He's got a bunch of units in hand, which is good, but he's got a whole hell of a lot of different units in his HQ. If he wants to try to win at his earliest possible planet, like he's basically has to send his Warlord to planet number 2, and he does not have initiative at the present moment. So if he sends his Warlord a 1/6 to planet number 2, all of these units show up with him, but they show up exhausted. We know that our guard player is at the very least going to be able to use Catachan, like, if he sends his own copy of Coteaz to planet number 2, Coteaz is going to be able to sacrifice, like a Sanctioned Psyker, to attack for 4. Catachan Outpost could make that 6 during ranged, and that will hit. Our bloodied Anrakyr the Traveler, and then with Preemptive Barrage, we could have this Sakalem Shrine Guard attack for 3 at ranged, and we could also have a Coteaz's Henchman attack during ranged, and then be sacrificed so that Coteaz can attack for 4 during ranged again. If Guy decides not to send his Warlord to planet number 2, then it looks like Travis is going to end up winning a green icon at planet number 1 and another green icon at planet number 2. And what I just said still works. Like, basically, unless Anrakyr goes to planet number 4, he's going to end up being just assassinated whatever planet he goes to, because Evil Sun's Warbiker, it's not going to be able to attack during ranged, but it is going to be able to attack during for 4, and Anrakyr isn't necessarily going to be able to trump that unit. Sakalem Shrine Guard touches down at planet number 3, interestingly, and I wonder if Coteaz will go to planet number 2, or if instead, like, Travis has got enough resources to... Oh, I guess he has another copy of Sakalem Shrine Guard. I'm sorry. I didn't notice that the ammo depots have been drawing a bunch of units, so we've now also got a copy of Tallarn Raiders. So it could be Tallarn Raiders and Sakalem Shrine Guard at this planet. I think earlier I said that the Sakalem Shrine Guard would be able to attack for 3, and I was thinking with Broderick War in mind. But what we could do is we could see Tallarn Raiders and Sakalem Shrine Guard at this planet. They attack for 2. Coteaz attacks for 4. Catachan Outpost adds something to it to make it 6. Then we could see Coteaz's Henchman sacrifice to Coteaz, and then he attacks again for 4, and that will very much be a GG and an extraordinarily dead Anrakyr. Guy has by this point passed. Anrakyr is basically at a loss for any additional deploy actions, and interestingly, Travis has just decided to deploy very heavily to planet number 1 to just ensure that he's going to be able to win at that planet. Travis does have a copy of Preemptive Barrage, so at planet number 1, it could be the Cadian Mortar Squad attacking for 5, the Tallarn Raiders for 2, and then a Sakalem Shrine Guard for 2, and that also could be a dead copy of Anrakyr. And then in regard to shields, there's no more than this mere mechanical enslavement for Guy to use, and, making his Warlord the equivalent of a 1/8 is kind of going to be insufficient to end up winning in this one. The Harbinger of Eternity is in play as both of our players are deciding where exactly they want to send their respective Warlords. Do note that it's got 3 command icons, but that's going to be insufficient to win command at that planet. You can now play Necron event cards from your discard pile as though they were in your hand, but there are no options for that. for Guy. Interestingly, looks like he's maybe going to bite the bullet here because, yeah, this is going to be the moment of truth. Anrakyr has chosen planet number 1, and he is about to die an incredibly gruesome death in front of this Cadian Mortar Squad and Coteaz. So let's see here. Coteaz could attack for 1. The Mortar Squad could attack for 5. With preemptive barrage, let's say that the Sakhalem Shrine Guard could attack for 2. The Talon Raiders could attack for 2. You could sacrifice Coteaz's henchmen. Coteaz could attack for 4. The Cadian Mortar Squad could attack for 5. And yeah, this is looking like game over instantly for Anrakyr because he is about to get just annihilated by this Astra Militarum firing squad here. Oh, and I forgot, Catachan Outpost is a thing, and this is a green planet, and troop transport is also very much a thing. So it's going to be no command wins for Guy, for Anrakyr, and it's going to be 2 cards and 3 resources for Travis. He got another copy of some combat irrelevant things, and now this is where the hurt begins. We do not see the Deathmark Assassins activated, which is a bit of a mistake, but it scarcely matters. The Cadian Mortar Squad attacks for 5, and Guy, I guess what he could do is he doesn't have the resources to do it, but he could play Mechanical Enhancement to give all of his Necrons plus 2 HP at this planet, and then once it's in his discard pile, he could remove it from the game to play it again, and then that's another 2 hit points for all of his Necrons. So, looks like we saw a Sakhalem Shrine Guard sacrificed, and that is going to be Coteaz having the option to attack for 4. We do see Mechanical Enhancement used now, so interestingly, we did not see Preemptive Barrage used. I guess you could have used Preemptive Barrage, attacked with that Shrine Guard, and then gotten still an additional attack out from Coteaz. So this is just looking absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, Guy calls out that it does not matter at all, so we are about to see the GG, and that is it right there. So good game, well played. Thank you to both of our players for humoring me and for engaging in this Legions of Death Proxy Anrakyr match. It ended up being a hell of a game, but perhaps Coteaz is a much more formidable warlord than the 3 of us gave him credit for. And of course, Travis is definitely no slouch when it comes to just being a superb player. So let's say if it were me, we could have seen Preemptive Barrage, Sakhalem Shrine Guard attack for 2, then Cadian Mortar Squad attacks for 5, Coteaz sacks the Sakhalem Shrine Guard, attacks for 4, Talon Raiders with whatever it's called, Preemptive Barrage could have attacked for 2, Cadian Mortar Squad could have attacked again, then we could have seen Coteaz's henchmen sacrificed, Coteaz could have attacked again for 4, Cadian Mortar Squad would have readied with Catachan Outpost, it could have attacked for 7, and that is just an absolutely insane amount of damage there that all would have gone out during ranged. So even if Anrakyr would have had the opportunity to retreat, I don't necessarily know that it would have made any difference. So congratulations again to Travis for winning this one, but all the same, it was great seeing Anrakyr in action. So, in regard to what could have potentially gone differently, let's go ahead and take a quick look at Guy Lev's deck. He didn't end up coming across any of his copies of Reanimation Protocols. That is max 1 per round, so even though you could heal a unit, it wouldn't necessarily work with the Harbinger of Eternity here. We could have seen Recycle used to fuel that discard pile. Guy, in the end, kind of ran out of resources because he wasn't able to establish a very strong command for himself, but Decaying Warrior Squad could have potentially made a bit of a difference, and unfortunately, we never really got to see the big, scary Necron elites come into play, so we could have seen a Lichguard Sentinel, and even though Anrakyr never was able to discard enough cards to get 6 units in his discard pile, we could have potentially seen a 2/10, maybe with a Gauss Flare, maybe with a Royal Phylactery, and that would have been a fantastic source of just pulling off a lot of damage. In regard to kind of discarding additional cards, we never saw Slumbering Tomb. We, of course, never saw Backlash used to successfully defend some of our elites from card abilities, and the Praetorian Ancient never really got to come into effect, where we could have disallowed the very card-advantaged Astra Militarum player from being able to shield, courtesy of a 5 attack value Armorbane unit. So, my dear viewers, I very much hope you enjoyed this game. Look forward to a Nahumech match to come in the near future, and then I think that'll be a sufficient number of proxy games to hold me out until Legions of Death ends up getting released. Presumably, in no more than maybe a week and a half or a couple of weeks at most. So, thank you once again for watching, and as always, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, as ever, you're encouraged to share this content, because the more engagement these videos receive, the more people end up seeing Conquest. They may give this living card game a try, enjoy what they experience, someday join our community, and of course, the greater we are in number, the bigger message we send to Fantasy Flight Games, telling them to continue to develop this fantastic product. If you ever want to get in touch with me personally, I would encourage you to do so, be it on Facebook or through Twitter, and if you ever feel inclined to give back to the Hive Tyrant, I would be very appreciative were you to donate as little as $1 to me through my Patreon. But, as always, thank you so much for watching, and once again, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.